Hello, and welcome to Naked at the Top. This is the very first episode. I'm Aleyx Ward, your host, and I believe the world is a better place when we tell the truth. And that's fundamentally what this podcast is all about. Naked at the Top is here to strip back leadership and get real. Because at the end of the day, real leadership is personal. So I have guests on where I uncover part of who they are. We go into the nitty gritty of what their everyday life is like. We learn about how they've built teams, how they've built their businesses, but we have a lot of fun along the way. I believe the best way to communicate and to connect with people is through story. So we spend a lot of time hearing about their stories, but not the stories you might be used to in other podcasts. Not their whole origin story, not, where they've come from and where they are now. It's more of those everyday stories, those everyday moments that happen because that that's the good stuff. That's the real stuff. That's the stuff that we all want to hear and learn from. There's great power in that. So that's what we go into. And as I say, we have so much fun along the way. I wasn't even going to share my story and share my context for this podcast. I was going to just dive straight into the guests and reveal their stories and reveal what makes them tick. But it was during an episode that I realized I need to share more of my story. I talk about showing up, being honest, being vulnerable, and I do that. But a big part of my work and why I do this is because I hid my story for so long, and it sounds cliche, but it was this big, heavy backpack on me that I didn't even realize, and I was lugging it around with me. And it wasn't until I started sharing more of me that I realized that actually this is okay. And in fact, it's so important. And that's why I'm so passionate about us having more honest conversations in the workplace and in life. So I'm Aleyx Ward. I am a messaging expert. I'm a keynote speaker and the founder of Core Story. And I work with leaders and brands to help them speak with guts, heart, and real clarity. And essentially, that's what this podcast is all about. It's an extension of that.
We are Naked at the Top podcast, and we're doing something a bit different today. I'm going to be interviewing the founder of Naked at the Top to hear what the actual origin story is and how she came about. And I am so honored to do this because, Aleyx, you are definitely one of my favorite people I've met this year. You're hilarious, you're genuine, and you're also a very savvy and inspiring businesswoman. So we're going to run through all of those things today. But yeah, I just wanted to share and ask you, Aleyx, why did you get into Naked at the Top? What is it here for? And what can listeners expect as they go on this journey with you?
Thank you, Mia. It's a funny one, Naked at the Top. When I talk to people about Naked at the Top and inviting guests onto the podcast, like a guy I spoke to the other week, he said to me, "Wait a minute, did you just say naked?" And I was just like, "Yep." um, so obviously, it's a phrase. It's a play on the words "lonely at the top," and the idea came about when I was at a speaker's training and looking at what I wanted to do with my keynote, what I wanted to take to corporates. And it's really to help those leaders just connect with the people around them. It can be quite lonely. And I think sometimes there can often be a wall up there. And you think you need to act a particular way, be restrained in what you say. And yeah, of course you do it sometimes, but I think we can bring more of ourselves to work, and I think we can bring more of that human element. And that's really what Naked at the Top is. It's an exploration of that. Do we really need to hide behind masks? Can we show up as our full selves? And if we can't, is that saying something about us or something about the culture at work? So, like, I don't have all the answers, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to start the podcast, because I want to speak to leaders across different industries and see how they run their businesses, how they run their teams, and see if they can help me answer some of these questions.
That's amazing. And then how did you actually get into this? What was the origin story of realizing that this was an important thing in the world? Did that start maybe earlier on in childhood, or how did that come about?
Yeah, big question. Yeah, so it kind of transpired from a few things. So the first one I'll talk about is my life in corporate. Um when I've been told by not one but two ex-bosses that I need to have more of a poker face. I was often told that I was too honest. My face gave away a lot, and it does. You can tell if I'm sad. You can tell if I'm happy. You can tell if I'm angry. I don't hide it, nor can I hide it. I'm very expressive. So when I was told to have more of a poker face, to hold my cards closer to my chest, it kind of got me a little bit confused, because I was like, oh, they're essentially telling me not to be me. And then it made me kind of question myself and look internally of like, oh, well, is there something wrong with how I'm showing up? Am I not a very good leader if I'm told to mask things? So it caused a lot of friction for me. I was also told once to stop cracking so many jokes in meetings, and again that was difficult, because that's part of who I am. Sometimes when I'm nervous, I might crack a joke just to lighten the mood, or if things get too serious. And I don't know about you, and if that's ever been said to you before, but when you're told these things, it just makes you question your identity. So that was a big thing for me. The more I thought about it, the more I was like, well, hold on. Is this like, do we all need to be the same, or can we work with what we've got?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I thought business was a journey of creating a business, but it's actually a journey of becoming more and more yourself. And at the start, you're trying to emulate everyone around you, and you're like, okay, I need to, look really professional and act professional, and I need to make sure I'm like this. But then you become sharper and sharper at the things that you're really good at that no one can replace, and then everyone starts to come to you for those things, and then you can grow teams and build a business around all the other stuff. So I think we're kind of lucky in that aspect. I don't know about you, but do you feel like in business you're able to be yourself a lot more, surround yourself with more like-minded people, and you're sort of seeing the difference, or do you still feel like that exists a lot in business as well?
No, massively. I've seen a huge shift. So when I first started my business core story, I didn't know how I was supposed to show up. Because of that experience in corporate and in childhood, which we can go into. And I started the business. I was like, oh, how am I supposed to be? And I was trying to educate people and show, look how much experience I've got. I really know what I'm talking about. And it wasn't helping the business at all. It wasn't helping me, and it wasn't helping me connect with what I was trying to do. And it took a while. It was a few small shifts, but I slowly started sharing more of me, letting my personality come out more, sharing more stories. And the more I did it, the more I saw people resonated with it, the more I connected with people. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to be completely myself, completely open. And I started talking about and sharing things that I probably kept hidden for most of my life. And what I realized was the more I did it, the more people were like, yeah, I get that, or yeah, me too. And it just made such a big difference. And I think that's how I've gotten to where I am now, with wanting to explore it further, to see, well, wait a minute, is there something here, and is there something that we can all learn from in the workplace?
Yeah, and it really is your superpower. It's your core strength. You can meet someone, and I look over, and suddenly you're in a deep conversation with them about their entire life story. And, very few people have that ability. I think there's this whole disconnect in our world at the moment where people don't feel confident to go up to people. Like, even that there's all these disconnected spaces. So, for someone to actually be promoting that it's okay to have these down to earth conversations. It's okay to be yourself. This is what makes the world beautiful. It's a really cool mission that you're on. But yeah, I'm wondering how that actually started and why that means so much to you. Where did that fire come from for you? And was it something in your story, or was it something in your experience that led you there? Because I know that, I know that your speech is very powerful. Yeah, how did that emotion come about?
Yeah. Yeah, so for me, like, to answer that question, I probably have to give a little bit of context into to me and my upbringing. So I was brought up by my mum, who's an alcoholic, and that brought with it a lot of, hard times in childhood, which many of us go through. But the significant thing with it was, if anyone knows alcoholics, they know that they're very good at hiding it, but so is their family. So as a family, we had to pretty much hide a lot of what was going on. I didn't tell my friends, I didn't tell people around me. And I started to take that then to my adulthood. I just got so used to, like, not talking about it. And it that meant that I wasn't really comfortable in my own skin. I wasn't really that aware of who I was. And I often said to like my sister and things, I was like, I feel like a chameleon. And I feel like I could show up as a different person depending on the context that I was in. And it wasn't until I started the business and started to actually just share it more openly that I realized, wow, this was like almost like a backpack that I know it's a common phrase, but a backpack that I'd
Mm,
been carrying around for so long. And then the more I started to tell people and just let it out, the more I was like, oh, actually, this isn't actually that heavy. It's not actually that big a deal. And like I was saying to someone the other week, sometimes you can keep things hidden for so long. You feel like it's such a big thing. And then when you start to tell people, you realize people don't actually care. Not in a mean way. They obviously care about you, but it's not actually that big of a deal that you think it is. And I've also found that people tend to open up to me, like what you were saying. I can get into a really deep chat with people. And I think that's because I am quite curious and just ask a lot of questions. But people feel comfortable opening up to me. But I never opened up to other people. So I've found now that I'm even more forthcoming about things that I've gone through. I can get into those really deep and meaningful chats, and it does lead to a lot more connection. And I think there's a lot to say for that. I don't think just in our personal lives, I think in the workplace as well.
and what's that experience like for you, starting to share more vulnerable parts of yourself? How's that impacted your life?
It's led to much deeper connections with other people, but it's also helped me just understand who I am a little bit more and more confident in who I am and what I've done and what I've achieved. Um, and I think that I needed to share that to be able to experience that, because I think when you keep so much locked up, you're not working through it and you can't experience it. So I think it's led to much deeper connections, but also more self-awareness.
That's amazing. Yeah. What about, so as someone that is you are like a very impressive communicator, and it's so easy to bring you anywhere or introduce you to anyone because everyone's like immediately connects with you. It's like it's genuinely a superpower. But there is also this other side to being open and being like that as well, where people can feel like this is the first person I've connected to potentially in weeks or months, and
Mm.
they might bring a lot to that conversation, and they might try to share a bit more than you're comfortable with. How do you manage those situations as well? Maybe when um, yeah, people are starved of connection. So it's almost like when they get it, they're like, oh my gosh, I want to eat everything. So what's that experience like for you? Do you have boundaries around that? And how do you manage that when it comes up?
I Great question. I do need to get better at boundaries. I think we
Oh,
both
same
agree.
girl.
I think that that people pleaser in me means that I might let people overshare sometimes a bit too much. I had an example of this the other week actually. I won't name names, but just it was a person that I just met. She was a stranger to me, but because we were like just connecting and opening up, and then she started to talk a lot about the times in COVID and not getting vaccinated, and then went on this like huge big tangent that was like a, quite a big conversation. And I did feel a little bit awkward. So what I did in that situation is that I just smiled. And I just said, "Oh, that's really interesting." And then someone else that I was with, I just got them to join the conversation and then change the topic. So I think there's ways that you can do it without shutting someone down and acknowledging what they've said. But if it starts to make you feel uncomfortable, there are kind of ways that you can kind of change the subject without kind of shutting them down. And I do think that's important because there's a fine balance, and I guess that's part of what I'm doing with Naked at the Top is I want to show people how they can have more genuine conversations. I want to learn from other leaders to see how they are doing it and how they build their businesses and their teams. But I also want to look at ways that we do it without oversharing and bringing so much, because there's only so much that you would bring to a work environment. And I think there's a balance there and a fine line.
The percentage of people that are out there sharing and talking and connecting with strangers is so slim in comparison to the extreme number of people that are isolated, lonely, unable to share their truth, unable to communicate. So I think sometimes people might be like, oh, people oversharing, some random crackhead at a station was oversharing with me today. But it's actually not really even about that small few. It's about the large percentage of people that are really struggling.
Mm,
What do you see those main struggles to be, particularly in business and the workplace? What are
mm.
those main problems that you, as in your business and in your speeches, you're trying to solve for people?
I think just how to have it sounds ridiculous, but just how to have a conversation. And what I mean by that is to think about the other person first and what you're trying to get out of it. I feel like if we look at it from a workplace scenario, we've got to be outcome driven, results driven, and think about the task at hand. But I think there's a way to approach people and teams, and I think the more that you can understand the people around you, understand the teams around you, get to know their personalities and their quirks, the better results that you're going to get, and the more you're going to enjoy all being around each other. I think if you approach people with curiosity, like I find a lot of the time, like if you look at social media, for example, there's a lot of people that are just talking about themselves, or it's kind of like a broadcasting. And this actually does happen in a work setting as well, where we kind of bark orders, or okay, this is what we're doing, let's get this done. Whereas if you start asking more questions and let the other person speak, you can understand them better and all drive towards one common goal, if that makes sense.
How would you define that in sort of three actionable steps for people? So, say if they wanted to, say if you were wanting to tell a message to the world and help people with a certain problem,
Yeah,
what are three actionable steps that they can do to improve the issue that they're facing?
yeah. Curiosity is the first one, which is just ask better questions. So, yeah, ask questions to gain an understanding of the person that you're talking to. And then the second step would be clarity, get really clear on the topic at hand and how you want to approach it. And then the third one would be then communicate. So once you've led with the curiosity and you've got the clarity, you can then communicate and have that conversation in a much more rounded way.
Yeah, you know what? Your work strangely reminds me of our friend Bryce, who runs a breathwork
Yeah.
program and breathwork business. People think that they know how to breathe. They think that oh, I'm a human. I'm not dying. I know how to breathe. But their capability of their breath is at 40% at
Mm,
best. So they don't actually know, they're not taking full breaths, they're not taking expansive breaths. They're really struggling and they're kind of taking these short breaths all the time.
mm,
Same thing with communication. You think because you know how to say hello, how are you, you know how to communicate in this world, a lot of people think that they know communication.
mm,
Our expansiveness to communication is so low. We're on such a low level with it. We don't ask questions to people. We don't reach out to people. We don't look at them in the eyes. We don't touch them on the shoulder just to like say like, hey, we're connected now. I
mhm.
saw this amazing little YouTube clip of Trevor Noah and Simon Sinek.
I love
Tre-
Trevor Noah.
I love him, and he Simon Sinek was like, "Oh, I hate small talk," and Trevor Noah was like, "I love small talk. Small talk means that we can be connected over the small things whereas big talk often divides us. So small
Mm,
talk, people can say, it's a beautiful day today. Oh, yeah, it's a beautiful day. Isn't that great? And you are creating a shared reality together.
mhm,
Whereas some of these like big talk things or like big business meetings or big stuff going on, it's really hard to be connected in that experience. So
yeah,
some people they just disregard small talk, they disregard meeting strangers, they disregard saying hello to people, and it's like that's the stuff that makes you a human. Like
mhm,
without that we actually do not survive. Loneliness is an extreme killer. So this stuff is not just a nice corporate thing to have, it's a real need to have. So what would you see as the real issues that people are facing at the moment in
mhm,
order to even like take the step to learn how to
mm.
communicate better? What are the main issues people are facing and why is this so important for people to learn about?
So a few things. I'm gonna just unpack what you just said for a minute. So with the small talk, because that really resonated with me because I used to say I hate small talk. Um and in a way I do, but in a different way, right? So I used to, when I would walk the dog, I would just like put my head down because sometimes I would get into small talk and it was like, "Oh, how are you? Good weather. What's your dog's name?" And like, I think the reason I didn't like small talk is because I found it boring. But then once I started approaching it and reframing it and looking at, okay, well, how can I change that small talk? I can ask better questions. So now when I meet someone, I just try and change the way the conversation's going away from the weather or away from the name of our dog so that I can change small talk into more deep talk. And I think that's the difference because people enjoy it. Like once you actually connect and get past the weather chat, most people, unless they're in a massive rush, most people enjoy it. So I think that's a really great reframe.
I used to, so sorry to like,
No.
I used to really be with you. I used to be like, oh, small talk so silly. I'm such a deep person. I'll only have deep talk. And then I realized what happens, the chemistry that happens when you have small talk. So like this morning I went to the gym, I went and did a yoga class on the beach, and um just the simplest thing, like someone said to me like, oh, like those lunges were a little bit hard. And we're like, haha, yeah, it was a bit challenging. And we suddenly had this experience of relating to each other, and
Mhm.
it was not an amazing conversation by any means, but it was so simple. I walked out of there, smile on my face, like I was connected with my fellow humans.
Mhm.
My brain chemistry literally changed. And
Mhm.
I think people discount small talk. Small talk and big talk are two different things. Boring talk is another thing.
Yeah.
So when someone is like bores you to death, that's not small talk, that's boring talk. Small talk is like, how do we find common ground in the everyday simple things? And
Yeah.
like it's not to be discounted. Like
Yeah.
we have to start there. And
Yes.
so tell me more about what you're trying to do with this podcast, because obviously you care a lot about genuine and authentic conversations, but yeah, like what do you hope to see for the future, and what's that path going to be like for you?
Yeah. It's really like what I said at the start. I really want to understand, can we show up as our full selves, or do we need to have a bit of a mask when we're at work? Do we need to have personal versus professional? What does that look like? And I don't have all the answers, but I genuinely want to understand more. So that's what the podcast is about, speaking to leaders that have got successful businesses or those that have worked with leaders, to see what their point of view is, how have they found it, but also to understand and hear the everyday stories. I think there's a lot of leadership podcasts out there which are fantastic. I listen to a lot of them myself, but a lot of them go back into the origin stories and into all these key significant moments. I really want to hear more of the everyday stories, the things that make us human, and I want to see if there are trends between all the leaders and what they're talking about, of how they show up in their business and how they show up for their teams, and yeah, just to kind of see if there is a wall there, or see the humans behind the businesses. And what I hope for the future with the podcast and speaking to corporates, is to show that we can all have more genuine conversations that is going to build trust and employee engagement within the company. And I'd love to just see more of that. We see a lot about, frameworks and things around communication, but I think we're complicating it. I think if we just ask more questions and get a bit clearer, and just approach these conversations with genuineness, I think we can see better results all around.
I'm like not a framework person, but I am at the same time. I'm like, things need a plan and an actionable thing, and then this leads to this leads to this. And
Mhm.
so, like, yeah, how will all of this like amazing content and amazing stuff, how will that move into like, say, the business and into your speaking? And yeah, what do you want? Because sometimes it's like, I almost believe that the best ideas they have like a plan of travel. So it's like
Mhm.
the idea is here, and it's having like, it's almost like the ideation stage is amazing. Like it's so fun. You're like, oh my God, all these great things are happening. But the idea has a travel plan, and it's getting on the train, and then it goes on the bus, and then it goes to Google Maps, and then it walks over here, and then it goes to there as well.
Yeah.
So this is an amazing idea. It's so important and so prevalent in this world that people need. But what are you going to do in terms of your business and in terms of your speaking engagements to get this idea and turn it into something really big?
I think first of all, I'm looking at the podcast as almost my own market research. So
Love it.
I talk a lot, online and in my business about market research. I don't think enough businesses do market research. I think that's a bit that's skipped, and it's something that I always do with my clients to spend time doing the market research. And so this podcast really is my own little market research project, um, to see, as I've said, to see the trend between all the different leaders across all the different industries, and really start to gather that insight and that data, and utilize that when I am running workshops and keynotes in corporates, because I don't want to go with something that I'm pretty sure this is right. I want it to be backed up by what other leaders are telling me too. So that's a big part of this as well. And really, for me, it's, I think, to show up more as ourselves. I think if you look online and you look how we promote leadership and things, I feel there is a bit of a wall. But when I'm having these conversations on the podcast, I'm asking people just random conversations. I'm getting random bits of insights about them, and these really fun stories that make them them. And I want to see that being shared more online, and people sharing more of those little quirks and things that make us human, and just change the conversation around leadership. I think that's really important.
Yeah, you're so good at this specific thing. You're so lovable. Like people love you. I think the reason why you'll be successful in anything you do is people just automatically love you. It's so easy to be your friend. It's so easy to be someone to spend so much time with. We're always the last people at the bar. We're always the last people at the events because you're like genuinely a wonderful person to be around. So if you could see yourself as a large speaker or like have a large business, what would that be in?
One of the things, when we talk about the speaking, I love getting everyone to interact. I don't like it to be just me speaking a lot of people. And one of the things I do as part of this podcast is I speak to people close to the guests, so I get an understanding of who they are as people before I get them on. And one of the things I have thought about is, in the future, as I'm, doing this keynote, is I'd love to get people up on stage, but also the people close to them, and have them like back to back almost. So like so say I got you on,
Yeah.
and I'd like ask you to talk about, I don't know, I'd ask you to tell me who Mia is, and, the type of leader you are. But then I would also have um, someone in your team up there too, and you're back to back, and then they say what they really think. So it's kind of like that mirror reflection, because I think that often we can think we're one way and then someone else might think something differently, and it's usually in a positive sense, right? So I think that's also a really beautiful thing as well, because we don't often have those conversations. But yeah, in terms of like bigger, it's more for me, it's the, as I said, seeing that change across corporates and doing that training. I also foresee it being a book as well, just not, as I say, not really on communication, just more, yeah, the genuine conversations. But yeah, I probably can't think of anything that much further.
That's amazing. I believe in everything. I believe everything you do will be great because you're such a hard worker and you have such good work ethic and the work you produce is amazing. But you're just like so wonderful to work with and so great to be around that. yeah, I feel like there's this weird divide in the world at the moment. It's like either like people having fun or people working hard.
Mm.
To find the mix of the two is like crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah. But is there anything else you want to share with people about the future of yeah, Naked at the Top and what you want people to know about it?
Not really. No, I think we've covered we've covered most of it. It's really just it's a fun place, hopefully, for people to share their story, but share those everyday moments and how they show up on in the world. And I think for anyone that's building a business or running teams, or just leading their own life, really, if they're curious about how other people are doing it, and are like me and want to just see genuinely how people are kind of approaching these things, then listen in. It's a lot of fun, and it is really. I've recorded 6 episodes now, and it's just showcasing that no matter who you are, whether you've been in business 20 years or you're just starting out or you're working for someone else, we're all humans at the end of the day. We've all got like these fears, and we've all got our little quirks, and we're all just kind of trying to do the best we can. And what I'm kind of getting from the people that I've spoken to is people do genuinely care, and they have a lot of fun while they're doing it. So I'm just trying to show those moments, really.
Amazing. Oh, I love it. Well, I'm so excited to follow along on this podcast journey, and it's going to be great. And also, it's wonderful working with you in business and having you as a friend. And yeah, can't wait to see all the amazing ways this podcast impacts people. So, thank you so much for the chat today.
Thanks, Mia.